The riots that started in L.A. are going nationwide. Now, not everywhere is a riot, but there has been rioting in certain locations. We got a bunch of cities. We got New York, we got Seattle, we got Philly, we've got Dallas. Arrests popping up all over the place as right now I think there may be 16 or so other cities where these anti-ICE riots and protests have been taking place. They expect this weekend to get a bit rowdy. So we have a bunch of videos popping up right now as we are live. Arrests are taking place in New York. There's massive protests happening in Chicago. We've got people blockading courtrooms in Seattle. And this is actually kind of funny, but they're taking all those Lime scooters that are just all over the place, and they're building barricades with them. Those things are really annoying, by the way, because they're just scattered all over the floor, just in random, in your city or whatever. I digress. There is good news for Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom filed a suit. A judge has denied his request to block the National Guard. Trump wins. The National Guard is under his command, and he can deploy them over these riots. He has doubled the amount of National Guard. He has sent in the Marines. Now, these Marines are going to be undergoing training and will not yet deploy, I believe, unless something escalates, but I don't know exactly what their decision is going to be. So we've got a lot of news in that regard. And then we have an official indictment for Rep. McIver. That's the Democrat who closed fist punched that cop at the ICE facility. It's getting crazy. A Democrat rep in Minnesota gave a speech where she said she was an illegal immigrant, implying that she fraudulently obtained citizenship and is now in public office, sparking a bit of controversy. So we'll talk about all this. Before we get started, we got a great sponsor. It is Hillsdale.edu. Have you guys ever heard someone say, either in an internet clip, on TV, or just to you, something like, capitalism is evil? How'd you respond? And when did capitalism become so controversial? Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses. That is right, my friends. They are free online courses. Learn about the United States Constitution, the stories in the book of Genesis, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's free online courses. Hillsdale recently launched a new course, Understanding Capitalism, that you should definitely check out. In 7 lectures, you'll learn about the role of profit and loss, how human nature plays a role in our economic system, why capitalism depends on private property rights, the rule of law, and above all, freedom, and why capitalism is ultimately a system that encourages morality rather than undermines it. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/Tim to enroll in this course, Understanding Capitalism. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/Tim to enroll for free. Shout out to Hillsdale. Awesome stuff. You guys you're getting out there. Also, go to timcast.com, click Join Us. Get in our Discord server. This is our community. If you guys are sitting there and you're watching the show and you don't know how to get involved to make a difference, here's one way you can start. Not only do you support our work as a member of the Discord, not only do you get to call in to the uncensored premium show on rumble.com, but you'll actually get to talk with tens of thousands of people. So let's say you want to write a book, start a video game, who knows, and you don't know where to begin. This is community, and this is where you'll meet the people that can help you out. There's chat rooms for every state. There's chat rooms for playing video games or making video games or writing books or making comics, whatever it is you might want to do. This is how we get started and how we win a culture war. Right now, the biggest concern I've got, people aren't paying attention to politics anymore because they feel like Trump won, despite all that's going on. So come the midterms, if the Democrats take the House, Donald Trump will be impeached. So how can you stay active and stay involved to build community? Again, that's timcast.com. But don't forget to also smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we've got Jim Pfaff.
Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus, theconservativecaucus.org. Spent 8 years on the Hill as chief of staff for Tim Huelskamp, Thomas Massey. And I said the most difficult part of my week was going to be following Michael Malice. He said, "You got this." Thanks, Michael.
Right on. Well, this is going to be fun. Thanks for joining us. Libby is here.
I'm Libby Emmons. I'm hanging out. Glad to be here. I'm with the Post-Millennial and Human Events.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here's the news from Axios. LA protests ignite anti-ICE demonstrations across the country. I love the headline writing for these news organizations because I think it's actually fair to say LA riots ignite anti-ICE protests, demonstrations. Well, we've got tons of videos, my friends. Here's this from CNN, a short clip for you.
The protests are spreading to cities across the country right now, from California to Dallas and Atlanta, Louisville, and New York. Many protesters say it's time to take a stand against the Trump administration's policies and what they feel are heavy-handed and heartless enforcement.
It's an absurdity, but here's a bunch of clips. Right now, so this is just from about 40 minutes ago, the 101 freeway in LA has been shut down again.
Police out there.
We can see a bunch of these lunatics shutting down the freeway.
Police just came out. Look, police are out on the road right now. Police are there right now.
What else do we got here? We've got a massive protest in downtown Chicago, right next to the Trump building. You can see here on the right. Now, this is a large march. This is not a riot. This is a protest. But I do believe there are reports of arrests already taking place. In fact, I think we have them. Protesters and police are clashing. Okay, it's a riot. Items are being thrown. This is an hour ago. People are being detained in Chicago. We have this video from Seattle Federal Building. Authorities have removed the Lime scooter and bike blockade, but now people are linking arms and blocking police, so still in protest territory. In New York, they're blocking the roads, and white people are yelling at black people because they're morally superior, I guess, so they say.
I think we should play that clip.
Okay, all right. This one really got Libby angry. Let me set up. There's a black woman who's trying to get to work, and there are two white protesters.
Just move out the way. You're not going to. How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do you as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
So
There you
I just
go.
want to shout out that's Savannah Hernandez out there in New York, Katie Davis Court, Jonathan Cho, they're out in Seattle. But I just want to say this is insane. Stopping people from going to work, like you should be automatically arrested and indicted and imprisoned because you should never be stopping people from feeding their families and taking care of themselves and doing what they have to do to be part of, breathing and eating. Like that's just totally out of control.
Not only that, it's forcing that other person's values onto you. It's totally taking away the individual's agency to say, I don't want to engage with this. One of the things that people in the United States have kind of always taken for granted was I have the ability to opt out of the political takes. In the past 10 years, 15 years, that kind of liberty has kind of gone away. And I think most Americans want that back because they want to say, I'll go and I'll vote, but I don't have to have every single part of my life politicized.
And that's what they've done.
While they're talking, I'd like if you could pull this up and just join me in this as I tweet.
Yes, I think that is wonderful, and I'm going to.
Listen, this is for those that are just listening. I took a screenshot of the white man yelling at the black woman, and I wrote the face of white supremacy.
He's a white supremacist. He's a
this is
horrible,
white
horrible
privilege.
man.
This is
white privilege. Yeah.
It's an expression of white privilege.
I completely agree with all of these leftist precepts about white privilege now that a white person is attacking a black woman.
exactly right.
And he's there for the people who are listening. He's got a green koozie and a little orange drink in
And a
his
man bun.
koozie
And a man bun. Don't forget the man bun.
Don't forget the man bun.
I mean, he's every little bit of the stereotype that you think he is.
I just want to say, of all the things that he's doing, the protesting, the communism, the blocking, this road, I'm actually okay with all of that. It's the man bun where I think he should go to jail.
Yeah.
No, none of that.
I mean, look.
But in all seriousness, it's funny because these people, they are the ones on the internet all high and mighty calling everyone else racists. And Savannah is Latina, I'm assuming.
I don't think she is.
What is she Asian?
I think she's from Guam.
Guam.
I think, her family,
Pacific
she's from
Islander.
Texas, but
She is not white.
she is not white.
And then you have this black woman, and these two women of color are begging these white people to please move, and they're like, no.
Right. And then they make fun of them for wanting to go to their jobs, and like I just find that so, like, I'm for once without words. It is shocking to me that you would prevent someone from going to work to do their job. And also, it's like you were saying, Phil, about this thing where they have decided that politics needs to be in every conceivable facet of our lives. Not only, like, they politicized the arts, and they politicized everything on the internet, and they politicized your clothes and your car and everything else. And they're making it impossible for you to just exist as a person. And we used to have this thing in this country that was basically the civil religion, right? You believe what you believe. That's cool. You have your religion at home. Okay, you go to your church. But in public, you treat everyone with dignity and respect. You treat everyone like their lives matter too. And these stupid white people, these white supremacist racists, are out here saying that this black woman's life doesn't matter, that her kids' lives don't matter, right? Where 5 years ago, they were probably out there in New York City protesting, George Floyd, whatever else, screaming Black Lives Matter. And now they're telling this black woman that her life and her kids' lives don't matter.
This is why I keep telling people that wokeness has nothing to do with critical race theory, nothing to do with a critical theory. It is entirely just adhering to the liberal orthodoxy. Here's another example. White people telling a black woman she can't go to work because their ideology is more important than her. Now, shouldn't the ideology of critical theory, they as the oppressive white people say, we defer to you? That's progressive stick. No, it's because wokeness is literally just about whatever makes sense for the cult. It is a murmuration of zombified leftist NPCs that believe random things, whatever they're told to believe in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, keep in mind, too, like, it's always white people pressing wokeness. It's not really people that are of different colors, and that has been really grinding against the narrative. I mean, people are starting to see in the black community, in the Hispanic community, that it's just a bunch of white people being ninnies, and they're breaking away from it. I think that's part of the dynamic that happened in 2024 that got groups of those voters to vote in much larger numbers than previous times for Donald Trump, because they're just fed up with it. It's white man bun guy, making them go crazy.
Yeah, we got some video from Dallas just last night. There had been a bunch of arrests and clashes with police, and then there's this live stream from New York City, and this is just from a couple hours ago. So protests in New York. What I will say, my experience in New York with protests is the police never do anything. You get what's called kettling. They'll surround you and just arrest you, but you almost never see cops in New York attacking people or pepper spraying or tear gas. They never use tear gas. And I think the issue is because of the water table, because of like how it would go into the ocean and cause problems. But that's why during Occupy it was a big deal when that one cop, Tony Baloney, pepper sprayed those young women. It's kind of funny, actually, if you look at it.
What's his name, really? Tony Baloney?
Anthony Bologna.
I love that.
Tony Baloney. He
must have had it tough in middle school.
There were several women standing on the sidewalk. They weren't in the protest group. They were outside of the kettle, and they were yelling, and he got frustrated, I guess, walked up and just sprayed him in the face with a little can of pepper spray. And that is what created Occupy Wall Street. Most people don't know this. Nobody cared about Occupy at all until Tony Baloney pepper sprayed these three women, creating, at the time, the fastest viral video in history. Something like 1.2 million views in only a couple of hours. This is 2011, so this is early days of social media, or, early-ish days. And everyone's like, I can't believe how many views this video got overnight. And then everyone went out in the streets. So now we've got tear gas, expanding foam rounds. There's a video going around where a guy's yelling at a cop, and the cop just shoots him point blank with the 40 millimeter foam round, which is pretty egregious. Like, just an angry cop. The guy was annoying, sure, but he just blasted him twice, actually. Yeah. So things are getting rowdy, and it's videos like this that I think are going to escalate this into something like this weekend. It's going to be nuts, because there's two things that stop people from rioting, and it's work and weather. And so you see protests like this where the guy's like, oh no, not work. That guy doesn't have a job. No, that guy's sucking the teat of the state or something like that. Or he's got his trust fund kid. A lot of trust fund kids at these protests.
How disgusting is that? He's either totally a vagrant that's living at the behest of the state, or he's totally a trust fund kid that has so much money, none of this stuff actually affects him.
During Occupy, it was organized by trust fund kids.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's not an exaggeration. And when several in media would point it out, largely conservative, many of the activists would take it as an offense, like, I am not a trust fund kid. And it's like, yo, those people who are literally organizing and everything, yeah, they're trust fund kids. That's why they're here. They don't have jobs. They don't need jobs.
Yeah, they can just hang out in the street all day.
That's right.
And not bathe. It doesn't matter.
So the other thing is travel. There's going to be a lot of left-aligned people, not as many as probably there used to be because Trump is actually, he's doing really well. But people are going to drive to these cities. So you got to understand that people might live 2 hours north of New York. They're not going to drive in for this. On the weekend, they'll say, let's drive in the morning and join the protests for Saturday and Sunday. I think this weekend is going to be nuts.
Well, don't forget what's happening in Washington. You got the big parade planned. Army.
It's going to thunderstorm, though.
And that may help out what was intended to be something really big. I mean, don't consider, these are not organic, by the way. These were all planned. Data Republican has got some fantastic research on what's funding it, what's triggering it. This is all in design. They are trying to thwart Donald Trump, obviously, at every turn. And this time it's backfiring big time. 2020, things didn't backfire quite as hugely as it's about to backfire right now.
I mean, this is an 80-20 issue.
Yeah.
The BLM riots, that was actually a massively popular issue.
Yeah.
The approval rating for BLM at the time of George Floyd's death was around 55 to 60% in aggregate. And then the riots wiped all of that off the map and it went negative. But let's jump to this story from Newsweek. Mysterious riot gear handed out to LA protesters raises questions. Indeed. People spotted bionic shields. These are high-end face masks that people could wear, full face masks akin to helmets, handed out from the back of a pickup truck by two women. There's also reports that a van pulled up distributing shields and masks as well. Who is buying these? Who is building them? This is organized. And I think if Donald Trump, if the conservatives, if the right doesn't want to play hardball, we lose. And expect in 5 years and 6 years to be marched into that gulag. And I'm only half kidding. But these people have plans. They have planned for this. They have contingencies. Before Donald Trump won, they were wargaming what they would do if he did win. And they are relying on Donald Trump and the Republicans not going as far as they would need to actually stop this. So what does that mean? If they are spending money on shields and masks to obstruct the federal government, this is sedition. The people voted for a president to remove foreign nationals who have illegally entered this country and to do so in large numbers. I mean, the Republicans swept everything. If now people are going out and providing resources to combat federal law enforcement, including the National Guard and the Marines, this is sedition, and the DOJ needs to go after any single one of these individuals, especially if they're flying a foreign flag. It is a seditious conspiracy at this point.
There's no doubt that everything that's happening in these streets, first of all, Alien Enemies Act is entirely, he absolutely has to be calling that out. There really has to be an effort to deport every one of the illegals that are here. There's no doubt that this looks like a real invasion. I mean, you've got what's going on in Chicago now, what happened in Boston. You look at these pictures and these scenes. Donald Trump has a perfect opportunity to make that argument and to act upon it. And I'm surprised he hasn't done more of that already. But if the weak part of the Trump agenda is Republicans in Congress. Let's just put it that way.
Well, yeah, they've passed they passed the Big Beautiful Bill and the Lake and Riley Act this year, and that's it.
No, not even the Big Beautiful Bill. It's still working.
I mean, the House.
The House did. Yeah, if the Senate does pass it, Trump gets something like $80 billion for immigration enforcement.
Right.
Well, and all
which is what we all voted for, really. I mean, that's what it's voted for.
Yeah, listen, Republicans are in Congress are not going to react to this in a way that needs to be acted. Donald Trump does have a lot of the levers to do this, which will make Republicans look much better than they deserve. You're not going to see action in Congress enough on this, I don't think.
I think there's some interesting things that are happening. Thomas Massie and Rand Paul, very, very popular, not so much now, because they are both of the opinion we don't want deficit spending. So therefore, Trump can't get his bill, and we need to change the bill to give, hey, let's fund ICE and deportations, but not by spending on all these things. And people are pissed because we have very little time to enact these deportations before Democrats try and muster up power in the House. And then if we don't handle these deportations, the census will kick in, and that's going to shift illicitly power towards Democrats because they give themselves extra congressional seats and electoral college votes. The Republicans have to do this right now. They have to start deporting people. Otherwise, it's over. So 2030 is the date of the census. It doesn't matter if these individuals may have been popular. I still like, Massey and Paul, but I'm right now saying pass Trump's big, beautiful bill. Get it done because we don't have that much time.
No, we don't have a lot of time.
No, we don't have time. Actually, just you think about this legislatively, it absolutely has to get done. I'm all for the fight that Ron Johnson and Rand and them are trying to have to get something on the edges. But one of the most amazing things about this bill is the permanency of these tax cuts. I mean, think about this. That's an amazingly positive thing. You will have, for the first time since I went to Capitol Hill in 2010, no opportunity for politicians to scream and yell about, oh my gosh, they're about to stop and recreating the tax code. Now they have to actually vote to raise taxes. Well, so yes, I think that's one of the big reasons to pass.
You know who's at fault for all this right now? Who takes all the blame?
Who?
Any guesses?
I know.
Say it.
I know who you
say it. Say it. That's
Ronald
right.
Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
the amnesty in 1986.
Absolutely.
Oh, the
And
amnesty, yeah.
This is what is believed to have turned California from a strong Republican state into a permanent blue state. And everything we're seeing now is an offshoot of the theft of political power through illegal immigration, is an offshoot of Reagan saying, we're going to let 3 million people enter our electoral system and their children. And it was a mistake, and they shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done it. And in fact, go ahead.
What we're seeing now is American citizens allegiant to Mexico flying Mexican flags and saying, you can't deport me, I'm American.
Yeah.
They hate this country. They're on the streets right now. All these videos are popping up. There's you know what? I'm going to pull up a video. You make your point. I'm going to pull this video up.
I will make my point. During the Biden administration, you had DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas as one of the many who was saying that what was needed was an amnesty for all of the people that had been let in. He actively spoke out against deportation, saying that they don't make any sense, that it was not a reasonable policy to deport even one person because he said there was too much manpower involved and all of this other stuff, and there were too many connections to the country at that point. And this guy is the same guy that from the press briefing room in March 2021 said, we're not saying don't come, we're saying don't come now, let us get our immigration thing sorted out. And then they spent the entire 4 years creating semi-legal ways to get more and more people into the country. And so that now you had Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, LaMonica McIver at this point, Chuck Schumer, all of the rest of them saying that we need these people in the country to do low-wage jobs because Americans won't do them. So they want them to do unregulated work for low pay, and then they want to give them mass amnesty and create pathways to citizenship.
Let me show you the fruits of Ronald Reagan.
This is our city, and this was Mexico. You can't kick us out of the land that was ours. Donald Trump!
You
Fascism!
have got to be kidding me.
Have you not seen this lady?
I've seen pictures, I've seen stills.
What's the wind blower for?
Just for the fucking tear gas to blow it back at those motherfuckers. If you have a fucking blower, bring it up! Push them back! We will not do 1992 again with your fucking tanks! I was 12 then! I'm 44 now! I will die for my fucking kids! And all of these young people are here are
They're
my
not your
fucking
kids. They're not
because
your
I'm an
kids.
LA native mom!
I bet she's
These
a
are my
public
fucking
school
children
teacher.
You're fighting! You! Major
Look at the
Pass,
mess
if you
of
can
a
hear
human
me,
that is.
expect in your office
Major
on
Pass.
Monday for
Public
attacking
school
my
teacher.
children!
I'm putting
You
money
could say
on
something to
that.
Donald Trump right now. What would he say?
Donald Trump, you can suck my left nut, you can get out of my f***ing drawer. You're just Macca Salma Hayek when they give you the time of day, and because Claudia Sheinbaum make you look like a f***ing loser.
So here's a woman, allegiant to Mexico, praising the Mexican president, denouncing the American president. The leaf blower is intended to act as a weapon, the purpose being to blow tear gas at police. She is screaming, "This is Mexico. It's our land." This is an invasion.
This is
Now hold on. Here's the question for you guys. If she's from LA and she was born there and she's a citizen, what do we do?
I don't think you do anything, really. I mean, what can you do?
So because of Ronald Reagan,
Yeah.
we have millions of people in this country who hate this country,
No recourse.
are allegiant to a foreign nation, but have legal protected status as citizens.
Keep in mind, Barack Obama has a better record on immigration than Ronald Reagan.
He sure
because of that
does,
86
yeah.
bill.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it. It created an invasion. It also set the paradigm for how this is getting much worse. Now, as to what you
So
do
did
with
the Flores agreement. I mean, the Flores agreement, that's a disaster too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the whole paradigm of expanding immigration began from that effort. And listen, I don't know what you do with this woman, but there's no doubt you have to go after the people that are pro-Mexico. I think this is insurrection. I think we need to say that it is, and it's sedition. That needs to be acted upon. So on the basis of citizenship status, no, but you have to aggressively stop this stuff. It's going to destroy us.
The other thing, too, about, like,
right now it calls into question U.S. sovereignty.
Yes,
there
it
are
really
people
does.
that are actually.
That's been happening for a while.
The behaviors that they're taking, like that they're engaging in, they call into question whether the federal government actually has the authority to do things like enforce the laws passed by Congress. This is simple. Donald Trump has got to move in. He's got to do, honestly, the plans that I've heard are perfectly fine. Have the military go in to defend the ICE operations and defend the federal agents that are acting to enforce the law. So the military won't even interact with the people if the people don't attack the ICE agents that are doing their job. Let them go in there and do their job. There will be deportations. There will be people that get rounded up. It's, you may not like it, but that's the way that it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And the military is there to set security, and that's fine, right? But the federal government has the authority to do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to jump to another story here. We have this from Fox News. Minnesota state rep admits she is in the U.S. illegally during legislative debate. Rep, I believe it's pronounced Kaoli Vang Her, revealed her family falsified paperwork. Let me see if I have the clip. We'll try and get the audio here.
Who brought us all to this country at the end of I've been spending a lot of time with my father, who brought us all to this country at the end of the Vietnam War. And I asked my father about how we came to the United States. And I always thought that we came here because my grandfather was a colonel in the secret war. And I thought that meant that we were in line to come to the U.S. And my father told me that was not true, even though my parents both worked for a Christian organization. And my father actually worked at the U.S. consulate because he was one of the few people who could speak English, and he could type really fast, and apparently that was a very valued skill then. So they had my father move away from the refugee camp from my mom and my sisters and I, and he went to live at the consulate where he processed all of the paperwork for the refugees that came to America. And we had missed our time to come to the U.S. 3 times, and if we didn't come that last time, we would not have been able to come to the U.S. And I said, wow, what luck of ours. And my mom said it wasn't luck. We did not have our names on that list to come to the U.S. because even though your grandfather worked for the CIA, and because there was no, like if you were a child of somebody worked for the CIA, the only people that had names to come to the U.S. were if you were in the direct military and you worked for the CIA or you worked for USAID. And which is why it's so personal to me that USAID is getting unfunded, but we did not do either one of those. My parents' Christian organization did not count. And so what my father did was one of our uncles worked for USAID, and because his mother had died, my father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country. And when we were fleeing that situation, never one time did my family say, let's look at which state has the greatest welfare and which state has the greatest benefits, because that's the state we're going to go to. Nobody leaves their country unless they have to leave that country. And that I asked my parents, were you scared coming to America? And I record all this because I can't believe that I'm going to be turning 52. I never asked my parents these stories before. And my mom said, we weren't scared. Because America, we knew, was the land of opportunity, and that if we worked hard, we could become something.
As long as they fraudulently gained citizenship, which is apparently what she's claiming they did. She also said she recorded that conversation.
There have been protests all weekend long.
So this is a state rep, a Democrat in Minnesota, stating, now I don't know if it's true or not because she could be lying for political brownie points because they're creepo cultists, but I would say the DOJ should launch an investigation, subpoena those recordings, and if you have an admission Well, either way, they should get those recordings, then review, if possible, the documents from when they filed and falsified their refugee status and then ultimately gained citizenship through this. And I say then it's disqualified. You're gone. Deportation.
Well, that is one of the reasons to withdraw naturalization, is if it was fraudulently claimed. That's like part of the documentation on how that would be done. You know?
Yeah, I mean, look,
you could do probably the same thing with Ilhan Omar's fake brother husband person, right?
The federal government should do all of those things. If there's any kind of fraud or any kind of breaking the law in order to get citizenship or something, and they admit to it, the federal government absolutely should go ahead and just wrap people up. The clothing guy on Twitter, the leftist or progressive clothing guy, I forget what his name is.
Which one?
He was from Vietnam, and he's here illegally, and he admitted it on Twitter. And J.D. Vance replied to the tweet and like, "Yeah, we're gonna come get you."
Why would you do that?
Because they believe that the government does not have the authority to actually enforce the law.
And they
check
also
this out.
think that they have the right to stay regardless of that.
Yeah.
From House.gov, this is 8 USC 1451. The party to whom was granted the naturalization alleged to have been illegally procured or procured by concealment of a material fact or by willful misrepresentation shall, in any such proceedings under subsection A of the section, have 60 days personal notice unless waived for such party in which to make answers to petition of the United States. And if such naturalized person be absent from the U.S., blah, 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 such a notice shall be given. Long story short, this is, where's the actual, they can revoke naturalization. Basically, that's the point of this. If they made material misstatements, then the U.S. government, even decades later, has the right to rescind naturalization and revoke citizenship.
Yeah, I'm asking myself, where the heck is Pam Bondi here? She's got this huge Justice Department that has a full division that can deal precisely with this issue, and they're not even out in front of a lot of this stuff. You know, her going on television so much was a big scandal, obviously, while she's not doing anything. This is the stuff you go on television about. We're doing this thing, we're doing that thing. I mean,
I found the provision. It's E.
Yeah.
When a person shall be convicted under section 1425 of Title 18 of knowingly procuring naturalization in violation of the law, the court in which such conviction is had shall thereupon revoke, set aside, and declare void the final order admitting such person to citizenship, and shall declare the certificate of naturalization of such person to be canceled. Jurisdiction is conferred on the courts having jurisdiction of the trial of such offense to make such adjudication, blah, blah, blah. So I think I say we investigate, and then, she can go back to Laos.
By the way, the one good result of this was that a bill that was designed to take illegals off of their Medicaid style program in Minnesota passed because the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader came in there. So these debates must be had. These responses must be immediately on the table. And again, I'm just calling them Pam Bondi. Like I'd really like to see some action in this and many other areas. What we're rolling out, what we're ramping up to actually address what's going on. And I'm rather disappointed, frankly.
Really? I mean, she did get the indictment for LaMonica McIver, LaMonica McIver in New Jersey for assaulting the ICE agents outside Delaney Hall.
No, that's all great. But listen, we right now she should be rolling up the investigation on these riots going on right now. You know, again with this legislator, she's not the only one. There are a lot of people in this situation. Sure. What's the effort that we have that we're undertaking now? And you don't have to go into details. You're just going to say we're up upon it. You know, I think that Trump's winning the debate right now. I don't think you're going to see any polls go down on the promotion of the immigration and getting people out of the country. He's going to stay firm on all that. If you want to solidify these gains, you need to show that you're taking other actions that are really important. Tom Homan's got it covered. Like what a rock star, you know. Right. But we need these other people in the various agencies to get on it and not have these weak interviews like Kash Patel had, you know, on Joe Rogan. We need some real stuff.
I thought that was a pretty good interview.
It was a good interview, but you know, I'm really concerned about what they're saying about the Epstein files, and Tim's been pointing this out, I think, pretty effectively.
And I know that a lot of people are worried about the Epstein files. I just want to see the current policies get enforced. I just want to see action on this stuff so that we're not dealing with the exact same problems next year and the year after and the year after that.
I still think that that significant criticism about the administration or the DOJ is a little early. It's I don't think that enough time has gone, in my opinion, for me to say, okay, they're not working on these things, they're not trying. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, for whatever you believe they're actually doing, they are pretty interactive on Twitter. They do post a lot more than other people in the FBI
the problem we're facing right now has nothing to do with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. It is that there are individuals in this country allegiant to foreign nations that have been naturalized illicitly, illegally, or through, I would describe as surreptitious means. We have a sitting Democrat admitting that her family fraudulently obtained citizenship. Now, this law actually says if your parents illicitly obtain citizenship and it is revoked, yours is revoked as well. We've got people in L.A. This is where it ends up. People in Los Angeles flying Mexican flags, praising the Mexican president as the Mexican president praises the illegal immigrants in this country, calls on Donald Trump to stop enforcing the law against foreign nationals in our country, effectively sanctioning the people entering illegally, while people who were then born here, two parents allegiant to Mexico, are using their protected status against us. I don't believe there's a solution to this. I think what's going to happen is the political power structure is being shifted by Democrats. There are extra congressional seats for illegal immigrants. And that means there's squishy Republicans that have to pander to these districts in order to get a seat in Congress. Republicans are going to be too scared to try and rock the boat, so they'll just say, I'm not going to go that far. That's crazy. But let's be honest. When you have Democratic politicians admitting that their family illegally obtained citizenship, and these people's policies flow in the direction of aiding people not from this country against the will of the American people, you have active, what I would call standalone complex sedition. That is, there's seditious conspiracy and the concept of a standalone complex, where if enough people adhere to an idea and act in a certain way, it appears like a widespread movement. It's an emergent phenomenon that will happen in any country that brings in millions of non-citizens and then confers upon them the right to vote and run our government. It's real simple. If you invite a stranger into your house, don't be surprised when he votes to eat all your food and take all your stuff.
And then take your house and kick you out.
Indeed. Why not?
Is the next thing that happens.
Republicans aren't going to do what needs to be done in this regard. I can't imagine anyone will have the political will to say, if you are in Los Angeles flying, that woman should be charged with sedition. Enough. The federal government is saying, we have codified laws on the books through Congress going back decades and even hundreds of years. And you are here with weapons attacking our law enforcement in the name of a foreign nation. Seditious conspiracy. All of it. Sedition, 10 years in prison. Lock them up.
Yeah. It's been a long time in this country since we've been really serious about really enforcing the laws that are on the books. Like we've been so lax. And on these I agree with you, Tim, and on these high profile things, the action taken, American people appreciate. One of the biggest problems, like, again, we're all about pass the bill, but one of the biggest problems about being so slow on the reconciliation bill to get real cuts in is because these guys are scared of their own shadows. Can't be scared of our shadows on this sedition thing. And you have to move aggressively. The moment that you do it and get good results, everyone comes on board.
Yes.
It's always scary at first. And that is the reason the actions aren't taken. Yep. But once you take the action and you get some results with it, everyone takes a collective breath and they're with you and you keep doing it. But the motivation is not just the public response. It's the enforcing of the law.
Yeah. Maybe because Trump's in his last term and he is being a bit more aggressive, maybe we will see some action. There are questions. Ilhan Omar has been challenged over and over and over again about engaging in immigration fraud with her brother. Mm-hmm. And this is the Star Tribune that reported it. Quote from the Star Tribune, Ilhan Omar may have married her brother. If there are numerous witnesses claiming it to be true, and there are questions about whether or not her citizenship would be void if she illicitly or fraudulently was engaging in these activities. But we haven't seen anything from the DOJ. Mm-hmm. It could be that we have 4 years of Joe Biden. It could be that this is a different kind of story, you know. This woman in Minnesota, she's going to have to either rescind that statement and say, I was lying for political points. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay. I say we investigate it because either we prove she's lying or, according to the law, her citizenship is to be avoided. And then she can't serve and she's got to go get deported.
Well, I'll tell you what, in Washington, D.C., one of the great things about Donald Trump is getting out of this idea of, well, we just, you know, we need to be nice like we've always been, and getting away from that and going straight to the point. I had not considered the Ilhan Omar thing, but I'm telling you that to do that, to make it very clear, the thing that everyone already knows about her, and to act upon it, whatever the result is, looks good. And you can't sit back and say, because she's very seditious in the House. Let's just be honest. The squad is seditious in the House. Yeah. These people are not even thinking about a basic American idea. But it's bad enough to get these guys to understand what the Constitution means, much less to do that. So do it.
Why isn't Bowman in jail?
Yeah, I agree. Like that, it was so. Having worked on Capitol Hill, it is so obvious what he had done on that door, and the way they were explaining it.
For those that don't know the context, he removed the sign from the door saying emergency exit only, and then pulls a fire alarm on camera. Yeah. You can watch the video.
In order to stop a bill from
slap on a wrist.
Going.
Well, in the moment you saw the video,
denied it too.
And then he denied it. Yeah, he lied about it.
Yeah. Knowing the Capitol inside and out, the moment you saw the picture and what door it was, that door's never freaking open. Like, no one ever goes out
He
that
did it to obstruct an official proceeding.
Yeah. That's correct.
He should be in prison right now.
Yes, that's correct.
But historically, at least in the past 10 years, the government hasn't really enforce the law when it came to Democrats, whether it be stuff like that or the way that the FBI was trying to cover the fact that the congressional baseball shooter was actually politically motivated. They tried to brush that little bit of terrorism under the rug. That's standard operating procedure. Yeah. You know.
Let's jump to this story from Scripps News. Judge denies California's request to immediately block Trump's use of the National Guard. This is a big win for Donald Trump. They say Governor Newsom filed the emergency request on Tuesday, alleging that Trump was turning the U.S. military against American citizens. The request sought to block the Trump admin from expanding the role of deployed troops in L.A., saying new orders could allow National Guard members to assist with immigration raids by securing perimeters and streets.
Yes.
But U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer declined to grant the motion, ordering instead that Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the Department of Defense have 24 hours to respond to the governor's filing. The judge has also scheduled a hearing on the case for Thursday, June 12th. So good news for now. Case is still ongoing, but I think Trump has every right to take command of the National Guard. Karen Bass is saying that Trump should end all immigration enforcement.
Wasn't that totally insane? She was saying that Trump should just stop enforcing federal law in California because she doesn't personally like it. This is from the mayor who was literally in Ghana as LA burned in January, and then she blamed everybody else in her government instead of herself for what went down, for like the thousands of homes burned. They've hardly gotten any permits for those people to rebuild their homes. It's absolutely a total disaster still. And now she thinks that the best thing to do is create more disaster. She also is one of the people who was spreading the falsehood that an ICE raid was at Home Depot on Friday.
That's what set this whole thing off.
Which actually did not happen. And the people who said that happened were spokespeople from this organization, CHIRLA, which is like a Coalition for Humane Immigration, something. And they were the ones who on Friday held a press conference and said that there'd been a raid at Home Depot that then got repeated and repeated and repeated. In fact, at Post Millennial, we were reporting on, this whole thing. And we were looking at the Times, and we were arguing about it. We were like, well, what happened? Was there a raid at Home Depot? The Times said there was a raid at Home Depot. These activists said there was a raid at Home Depot. Was there? And then Bill Malugin at Fox was saying there was no raid at Home Depot. DHS said there was no raid at Home Depot. There was just an ICE, they were like nearby doing something else. And this whole thing got sparked off. Karen Bass then lied about it. The activists lied about it. And it turns out that activist group, CHIRLA, not only were they backed by Kamala Harris, who held her first event as senator-elect in 2016 at like one of their events, but also they were funded by the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, $500,000
Yes.
from the Homeland Security
Yes.
over 2 years.
Yeah, Natalie Winters was reporting that. And then she was reporting that on X. She's at War Room.
Yeah.
And so I started digging into that. And yeah, that's true. This is who was funding. The Biden administration is literally somehow continuing to fund the activist groups.
Gold bars off the Titanic.
Yeah, the activist
we
groups.
We
that
thought
are
it was just on
trying
the
to
EPA
prevent
stuff.
this.
It's much more broad than
Yeah,
that.
it's a huge issue. And so they were not only opening the borders, creating semi-legal pathways for entry, all of the parolee programs, extending temporary protected.
Semi-legal, you mean illegal.
No, because they created these things. So instead of remain in Mexico, they said you can be paroled into the United States, which they never should have done. They should have stuck with remain in Mexico. They prioritized one of Kamala Harris's big things that she did as in her temporary stint as border czar before her office said that she wasn't responsible for the border was she got the Biden administration to sign an executive order prioritizing LGBTQIA plus people for asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border, right? I mean, another thing that they did was they said that any unaccompanied minor would be admitted to the U.S. no questions asked, which is like, hey, human traffickers, steal the children and bring them here.
These were powers that the executive office did have, though.
Right.
So
like,
semi-legal.
for example, the CBP One app was actually created under the Trump administration to allow boats carrying perishable goods to the United States to create appointments to go to ports and say, like, here's all our bananas or whatever. And the Biden administration changed it and reprioritized it for immigrants to say, oh, we're going to make an appointment, surrender ourselves at a point of entry. We are illegal immigrants. You will parole us into the United States, and then we will stay there until a court hearing. And then they also went around summarily dismissing court cases. They dismissed hundreds of thousands of court cases.
Second-class citizens.
Yes, which was their goal. And then they could, make all these people have low-class jobs and boost congressional representation for those districts. Meanwhile, anyway.
We just have a big, a massive rumor. It's got 1.3 million views. I'm meme saying that a photo surfaced of the man who was in the truck delivering the face masks and shields, and that he is reportedly affiliated with the Teamsters.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Teamsters chapter.
Is that for real?
I heard
it's a report and rumor circulating on X.
Yeah, I heard also there was
photos.
something that I heard this morning. I don't remember what podcast it was. It might have been on Two Way from that Mark Halperin's new podcast with Sean Spicer, but I think they might have been talking about. Either way, I'm not sure where I heard it, but they were talking about unions are actually involved with trying to organize or with the groups that are organizing the protests here.
But primarily Service International Employees Union.
I am flabbergasted by this tweet I just saw from ABC News 7. It says there are more U.S. troops in L.A. than in Iraq and Syria.
That's awesome.
My only respond is, okay.
Yeah.
So much better.
What?
Thank you,
We
Donald.
don't want them over there.
They're in America.
Thank you, Donald Trump.
Yeah, wow. This is crazy. I mean, someone's funding this stuff. Someone's providing these weapons.
Did you say that it was the Teamsters?
That's what I
You
know.
said it was the Teamsters.
The rumor says
SEIU.
he's
this one rumor was a Teamster.
the guy who was behind the wheel of a truck where they were giving out shields and masks, according to a viral tweet, is a member of a local Teamsters chapter.
Back to Chirla, by the way, more government funding. So in their last 990, that's the form that nonprofit organizations submit to the federal government. They went from $12 million in government grants to $33 million, I think the number was, in their last reporting period. Now, it seems that a lot of this money is from the state of California coming to them. It's Chirla. It's Campaign for Humane Immigrant Rights, LA, right? So the government money's coming in, and a lot of it's from California. So in effect, California is funding these riots on themselves that they're complaining about Donald Trump overreacting to, that they're doing nothing about, that they know they need to do something about, and say they want to do it.
You're talking about the state of California is paying for these things? Or are you talking about
in effect? I posted a meme on my X. It was a picture of the people on that bridge throwing rocks down on those police cars, and it said "My government" by the police cars, and then somehow also "My government."
Yeah.
I mean, this is really the absurd thing that's taking place. The NGO culture is so freaking corrupt.
Yeah.
Like this is really a UN corrupt game, these NGOs. We didn't do NGO. We didn't even call nonprofit organizations NGOs in this country until 20, 30 years ago. USAID. I mean, this is really a Bush administration thing almost, frankly. But the NGOs were corrupt institutions receiving money from the UN for a long period of time. And now they're corrupt institutions receiving our government money, radically twisting everything. I mean, this is one of the big stories of this iteration of Donald Trump and this administration, the corruption of government, and in coordination with Open Societies Foundation, this communist CCP billionaire that's also funding these, whose name I'm forgetting. These guys are working in coordination with all this NGO stuff to cause this crap. Yeah. And remember, George Soros makes money on chaos. It's a hedge fund. Like, you need to have inside information to really short the market or go long on the market. And that's how he cornered the British pound so many years ago. Scott Bessent helped him do that, by the way. But that's another issue that kind of lingers at the bottom of everything you're seeing going on right now, is that these guys have other interests than just politics. Yeah. Now, they want to affect the politics. Soros is a socialist, there's no doubt. That's why the other guy's a communist, actually. But they want to affect the politics, but they also want to make money off of it. It's one of the hugest scams that's happened throughout world history, but we're just seeing a big iteration of it again these days.
I think that that's one of the benefits of the internet and everything being online and everyone's lives being online, is these kind of organizations were less susceptible to the sunlight. It was much easier for them to hide and to work behind the scenes with using just networking and using the connections that they had in governments and stuff. And nowadays, anyone that goes on the internet and decides that they want to look into what's the organization that's doing this or doing that, or how did is this information that I'm seeing from people on the ground, is it true? They can do all the they can at least do some searching to see if there's actual substance to it. So it's much more difficult for people that are looking to to do subversive actions in the U.S. It's much harder to hide it, I think.
All because Elon Musk bought X and got Donald Trump elected, right?
Yeah. I mean, legitimately.
Seriously, that's big.
Without X, without this platform.
We would be totally closed down. Yeah. I can't listen. I was initially involved with these Mario Nafal spaces back in 2022 and 2023. I was helping organize them. I was getting a lot of people on there. Actually, his early big guests were mostly ones that I was getting, and I broke with him a long time ago. But the point is that when we were doing those things, it was exploding. It was you had this sense in the population that, wow, finally, I can hear something that's real. I remember being on X before that, and it was just a waste of freaking time. I was on the radio in Denver for 4 years, from 2006 to 2010. I had grown my following to about 15, 16,000 at the time. And then while I was unengaged working on Capitol Hill and stuff, it dropped down to 4,000. I couldn't do anything. Everything I would try, they'd shut it down. Yep. Suddenly, an explosion of information. I think people still are remembering that viscerally right now, and they're going after this information. But you're so correct about, we finally are able to put a spotlight on this stuff in a way. Like, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, George Soros is buying it. And by the way, these LA riots, I can't find any evidence of George Soros money. It's this Roy. It's this Neville Bingham guy, right? But Soros benefits from it. So
we've got we'll jump to this story here. We've got video out of Chicago as these immigration protests light up, and people aren't having it. A car actually navigates, driving through the protest. It appears everybody's fine, but people are saying no. Look at this.
There's the red car that's coming in, and you'll see people trying to get out of the way, others standing in front, and others beating the car, trying to slow it down or stop it. And then you'll see the officer right there as it passed. We'll show you here. There's the red car that's coming in, and you'll see people trying to get out of the way.
Yeah, people are no longer going to wait around after what we saw with the BLM riots in the Summer of Love.
And they pulled people out of their
notably,
cars.
Well, the woman, it was a man. I think it was a man or woman. I can't remember who got shot in Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
So driving on the street, minding your own business, someone runs up to your car and just shoots you. So now people aren't stopping.
No, I don't know why you would. They're not stopping for the climate people anymore either, remember?
Yeah, and well, I guess I got to say, if you live in a place like Chicago, you're going to prison.
Well, this is kind of a modification of the, if you're going to take on the king, you better kill him type thing. They shot their wad in 2020 and for some time thereafter. And now we have the information openly there, and people are just definitely not going to put up with it anymore. And when it gets out of hand in ways like it did in 2020, it's still not going to convince them to give up anymore.
Well, so we have this from Newsweek. LA may be hit with a curfew. This story is just breaking in the past hour. Mayor Bass says that they may launch a curfew tonight with everything getting as crazy as it is. So Donald Trump's support right now in immigration, CNN had this hilarious bit. Harry Ensign, man, he's their poll guy. He's a living meme now because every week at least, he's going, look at the polls. People love Donald Trump. We can't believe these numbers. And it's like, okay.
He's shocked every
Those
time.
are shocked every time that people support what Trump is doing right now. And I say, get out there, National Guard, send in the Marines where necessary, arrest all these people. They should be charged not just with rioting. There are people on the streets screaming for a foreign nation, charge them with sedition, and let's be done with this. Let's if you come in now and say we will enforce the law as it is written, and that means if you're cheering for a foreign nation, fighting the federal government and our military for foreign nationals, sedition, we lock you up.
I don't see why this is controversial at all. This is stuff that 20 years ago Democrats would have agreed with.
Yeah, but Democrats have gone so far to the left that all of us ended up being conservative.
Well, we're at a time, though, too, where you can press something that years ago would have seemed incredibly radical. And now people are so fed up with the situation, they'd accept it. I mean, I'm in 100% agreement.
So what do you think is or what do you actually, both of you, Libby, what do you think is what do you think would be an action too far that would actually turn most of America against Donald Trump? Because right now he's still at 55%. People want to see roundups, not just deportations, but people getting rounded up, illegals getting rounded up, not just the criminals. Mm-hmm. This is something that's been pulled over and over, and people are like, yes, round up the illegals, not just the criminals, round up the illegals and send them home. What do you think would be too much for the American people?
Well, I think if you actually did start seeing like children being ripped out of parents' arms, but of course that's what Democrats are driving all of this towards. That's what they want to have happen, right? I mean, you have sanctuary cities and sanctuary states where the law says that local law enforcement cannot help federal law enforcement. So what does that mean? What that means is that federal law enforcement, right, they have to go out into the community instead. So you have somebody who is a criminal illegal immigrant, they get detained locally for whatever crime they did. So when they get released, when it's time for them to like get released into the community or whatever, local law enforcement does not call federal law enforcement to say, come get your guy here. Yeah. Right?
We got breaking news as of, I believe, just about a minute or so ago. Mayor Karen Bass has declared an emergency and enacted a curfew for 1 square mile in downtown Los Angeles. So this is actually, yes, from about a minute or two ago, this just broke. This is Alex Michelson of Fox LA. So they did it. LAPD says they'll arrest anyone breaking curfew.
To answer your question, by the way, I want to say one other thing. The question may not be what would go too far. I actually think that this sentiment that's out there right now, Donald Trump could go farther than he ought to and is going to get support. This is an emergency situation. People are feeling how bad this is. Now, by the way, it's to Donald Trump's credit. I think he's totally restrained and would never do crazy crap, right? He's going to think through it. He's very he's far more methodical than people give him credit for, frankly. He really does understand how to take things in a certain way. But I think I guess I'm trying to say, I don't think there are really very many limits right now. I'd be surprised to see what that is on this issue. Now, on some other issues, maybe, but when it comes to the immigration thing, what's happening right now, I think people are ready for answers because they're really pissed off. There's been no pushback on what Tom Homan's doing, and it's been very aggressive, and I think it remains with this as well.
But
the curfew is going to be enforced for several days.
Nice.
Is that do you one second before we move on? Do you think the curfew is in response to the nationwide stuff, or is it just what's going on in LA now?
No, it's a combination of Trump and nationwide.
Well,
They're seeing the political pressure.
They saw the polls.
Yeah, exactly.
And the polls show that not only is Trump popular on immigration, when polled, I believe it was, I do have the poll. Let me pull it up. Trump is popular on the deployment of the National Guard. So I think they're seeing that they are losing this, and by allowing these riots to continue, either LA or otherwise, it's helping Republicans for the midterms. All that's happened already, it's all going to appear in commercials.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be saying when LA burned for 3 days, it was the Republicans, it was Trump, and then they're going to name their member of Congress who stood with Trump and said, we need law and order, all that stuff.
This is the public approach to getting ratioed, right? Like Karen Bass
old
looks
school way to do it
stupid.
with the polling.
Insider advantage. Do you approve of Trump's National Guard deployment? Yes, 59%.
That is so huge.
Plus 20.
That is
I'm going to tell you something.
really, really big.
This bolsters my point earlier. Like he could almost do anything. I mean, he's not going to, and I'm glad he's not. And I'm not even saying he should do everything. But Tim, your suggestion, he absolutely should be going after that. This should give him the strength to do that and aggressively.
And this is why they're enacting a curfew now, and they're panicking because they're like, uh-oh. This is what we need. You know, Donald Trump needs to be a strong leader and say no, and people will approve it. I think in the 2020 riots, Trump did nothing. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea from Republicans was let them burn their own cities down. I think the reality was, as the president, many people in these areas said, when our city burned, Trump did nothing.
Well, and people died.
Yep, I think.
Yeah, 31 people died.
Everyone said, if Trump deployed the National Guard, they would have accused him of being a fascist, blah, blah, blah. They already did. Trump should have deployed the National Guard, shut down the riots, and said, I will keep you safe in these troubling times, and I think it would have benefited him.
And by the way, he's admitted as much. He was just saying, I think yesterday or today, he was just saying, I waited too long, and I'm not waiting. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly right. He has done so much in just a really short period of time because he knows that there's going to be all this pushback. So he just does it and does it and does it. And they play whack-a-mole. And, you know, the American people are like, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. But yeah, Democrats want to see the kind of, they want to see, like what we were saying about going too far. They want to see it go so far that people are against it. And that's just not happening.
No.
It's just not happening.
No. The Democrats, because of the fact that the Democrats actually want to break the law, right? They want to see laws not enforced. They want to see, they want to see people that are here illegally be allowed to stay. They want to see the end to ICE raids. They want to see all these things that are not enforcing the law and things that are illegal. So because of that, they have to have popular support, because if they don't have popular support, and Donald Trump does, then the Trump administration just comes in and puts the hammer down.
Well, they have the popular support of a lot of people who can't vote, right? Of like 10 million people that can't vote, they have their support, and that, it turns out, is not as helpful as the popular support of people who can vote.
Especially when they're flying Mexican flags and
isn't that so crazy? They're out there like,
insane.
We hate America, let us stay. No, like there's the door.
I'd be willing to bet that without the images from this past weekend, that poll we just saw, I bet you it wouldn't be quite so lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
Well, keep in mind too, Democrats for some time have realized that they cannot win elections unless they can put some English on the ball, so to speak. This initially started with some of the reactions to the 2000 election and some of the approaches that they were trying to take. And in fact, their argument after that, amongst other things, was we cannot have mail ballots. You know, that used to be their argument. But along the way, they figured out, and it's also why they started doing this micro-targeting stuff. Like I ran in 2006 the marriage amendment in Colorado, and we passed it big. I was fighting against that. You remember that book, The Blueprint, that was about the change in Colorado. The guys who orchestrated the blueprint, one of whom I'm friendly with, by the way, we respect one another because I kicked his butt. But the point is that paradigm of micro-targeting people, doing great data work, expanding it out, the iteration of Act Blue, and so they started to be really good at that. But again, that was not always taking them over the edge. And so they've started to do the radical changes in the way we do voting. So mail voting started, they figured out because of this micro-targeting, that they could do mail voting. Oregon started mail voting, I think, in 2004, maybe it was. In Colorado, when I ran that, we didn't have mail voting. We had expanded absentee ballots and early voting. But then they went to mail voting, and they figured out this mail voting thing is really the key because they know how to work it well, and they knew Republicans.
Colorado has all mail voting, right?
It does,
So does
yes.
Oregon, I think,
It does now,
and
yeah.
Washington. Yeah, that's not good. I remember that in 2020, we saw Nancy Pelosi being like, we have to all mail our ballots. And I was like, that's not good.
But the point I'm making is that they have to twist the game in some way. They have to get English on the ball. They have to go outside the addressing the American people. And that has helped them in recent years. And right now, I don't think it's going to help again. We saw last November some evidence of it. And I think the crack is starting to break. But that doesn't mean all the risks are gone. But the American people aren't responding to that. And we got to see what the next reiteration is. Riots is part of that, to be candid. Or at least it's going to fail, but I think that they think it is.
Who are the people that are rioting? Or is it the same contingent from 2020 and trans and climate and everything? Is it those in Gaza? Is it the same people?
Well, I mean, it's definitely the same, the same type of person, even if it's not the exact same people. It's still the Antifa people. It's people that are, coming out for Black Bloc, get into that kind of stuff.
People.
The Antifa people. So you've got your anarcho-communists, your people that are politically disengaged and that are just there for the party because the whole rioting thing is very attractive to young adults, young men. They like to throw stuff. They like to get wild. So they'll go and they'll get, smoke some weed, get high, or they'll have some drinks and get into fights with the cops. That's fun for a lot of people. So it is a conglomeration of a bunch of different groups. But the people that the cops really need to pick up are the ones that are there for the Black Bloc.
But keep in mind, this is not in the least organic. It's orchestrated and planned. They get some organic effect.
People are supplying them weapons.
Yeah.
Right,
And
exactly.
mass.
Which is
Brian
why
Stelter right now is tweeting that in the real world LA, most Angeles are having a normal day. And that it's just people seeing clicks and chaos about last weekend's clashes. This is the depravity of people, of the media, and this is what they do. Brian Stelter has always existed to try and cover up when the Democrats are in panic. They're declaring an emergency, enacting a curfew. The National Guard is being deployed. It's happening literally right now. We played videos. The role of this man, and what he's always done, is to cover it up. And he says, actually, earlier today, he was saying, I think it was today, that you're seeing videos from hours or days ago.
Ridiculous.
And it's like, and yes, people are concerned about it, and it's ongoing. It's remarkable that he's tweeted out at 7 o'clock that people are preying on fears about where last weekend's clashes will go. You mean today's literal right now clashes?
Yes, it's right now. This is what, day 5? Are we on day 5?
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah.
It is pretty remarkable that he tries to frame it like that, but that has been the the standard operating procedure of the media for the past 6 or more, maybe 10 years. They'll take something that is clearly and obvious to whoever's watching, and they will write a chyron about it, or the monologue that they're giving in front of this picture doesn't add up with the reality that's going on behind them. That's that's the meme.
It's one thing to be a little kid and you stole the cookie and you weren't supposed to eat it, and mom asks you why, and you lie and say you didn't. That's one thing. What does it take for a person to really think about, what am I going to lie about today to advance it?
Well, this is what happens when there's no discipline.
Yeah, that's right.
These people are evil.
And when there's no consequences for, just going right back to the case of the sedition thing. I mean, if there are no consequences anywhere, that creates a moral hazard. That's what a moral hazard is when you talk about it from an insurance perspective.
Let's talk about consequences. We have this story from the Seattle Times. U.S. Rep. LaMonica McIver indicted on federal charges from skirmish at New Jersey Immigration Center. They say that she was indicted Tuesday on federal charges alleging she impeded and interfered with immigration officer outside of New Jersey Detention Center. That's insane, by the way. She's on video, closed fist, punching the guy.
And she's wearing red. You can see her amid a sea of people in earth tones.
Yep. She's a Democrat she's been charged in a complaint by HABA last month with 2 assault charges. She's now additionally been indicted on further charges. So look, this Trump admin not playing around. I want to see more of this stuff. And I think what we are all eager to see, going beyond just obviously this woman assaulted an officer, we want to see the arrests of the corruption at the federal level. When the J6 committee was accused of tampering with witnesses, I want to see charges.
I don't know why they let off Mayor Ross Baraka in Newark, who was also involved in this whole thing and was impeding things. Why did they let him off?
Because people misunderstood the video when it was first released. They thought the scuffle happened first and then the arrest. The scuffle followed the arrest. So they went into the ICE facility. They didn't break in. They didn't fight their way in. And they were told he has to leave, and he kept refusing. And they said, I will trespass if you don't. And then the DHS video jump cuts, but they leave. DHS then, I believe it was ICE, whoever was there, then goes out of the facility to arrest him, triggering the scuffle. That's when Rep McIver punches the ICE agent. So they probably said, we can't get this guy on trespassing. He left when we told him to leave.
That makes sense.
And then they started arresting him, and then everyone starts fighting.
You know, his dad was...
crime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
She punched a Fed.
Ross Baraka's dad was Amiri Baraka, who was originally the black nationalist poet Leroy Jones, who wrote Dutchman about the white woman on the subway who, murders this black guy. But Ross Baraka grew up in a very black nationalist, socialist type of home in Newark, New Jersey. And he was actually on Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill in 1998.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
What did he do?
I don't know. He was featured on one of the tracks.
Really?
Yeah. But his mom founded a record company, was co-founder of Sugar Hill Records.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's basically like black commie royalty.
Now I'm looking up the record to see.
Yeah.
What he...
Gavin Newsom is going to be giving an address in 20 minutes for those that are watching live. Everybody else tomorrow will probably already know. But I imagine he's going to blame Donald Trump for all the rioting and all the violence. Maxine Waters has already been blaming Trump. Trump called the National Guard because of the violence. There's a video of leftists mocking ICE agents who are trapped in a federal facility and can't get out because they're throwing things at them. And then the Democrats come out and say it never happened. Trump is actually the one who started all the violence.
Yeah, they love to blame Trump for all of their own
policies,
that have failed the United States.
Stop debating. I don't care. Just arrest people. ICE, go out, make the arrest you got to make, arrest, deport the people you got to deport, and Democrats can scream into the wind all they want.
Once they have, once the Marines are actually on site, they can start doing that. I guess the Marines are still holed up out of town doing some more training for probably riot gear training, because generally the Marines have not been doing riot stuff for past 20 years or so.
Indeed. Well, we have the announcement from the mayor here that just went up a few minutes ago. Let's play it.
I wanted to let the city know that I have declared a local emergency and issued a curfew for downtown Los Angeles to stop the vandalism, to stop the looting. Many businesses have now been affected by or vandalized. Last night, there were 23 businesses that were looted.
Wow.
And I think that if you drive through downtown LA, the graffiti is everywhere and has caused significant damages to businesses and a number of properties. So my message to you is, if you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted. Hundreds of officers from police and sheriff departments from across the region and state are working alongside LAPD through a unified command structure. The curfew will be in place tonight from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m.
I was going to say, thank you, Donald Trump, one. Two, thank you, I think, the police chief. Because at the end of the day, in the background, there's discussions. And he's like, listen, I know I have to answer to you, but stop the stupidity. And
I assume that those conversations are going on. But I think that one of the more important things that I'm getting from this is one more egg on the face of the Democrats to have to come out and do this after they've been swearing up and down for the past 5 days. No, everything's fine. It was Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. Everything was fine. It's not a problem. There is no violence. Maxine Waters just earlier today, there was no violence anywhere, et cetera, et cetera. And now you see the Democrat, mayor coming out and saying, okay, we have to.
23.
That's a lot.
Businesses looted.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
By the way,
That's what
I
she
think
said.
they were mostly minority-owned businesses too, if I remember correctly.
Downtown LA is a slum already.
I
What a
have-
horrible city. I'm sorry. I will rag on LA all day. People need to understand this. LA is actually relatively small. LA County is usually what people refer to, but it's all everyone always wants to move to the surrounding areas outside of LA. It's one big massive metro. Downtown LA is just, it's always really it was crazy to me when I lived in LA because most cities have a vibrant downtown, but people who live in LA, quote unquote, avoid downtown. They don't want to go anywhere near it. It's not where the nightlife is. It's not the center of the town. It's actually rather dirty and run down.
Don't go on the downtown interstates, go on the outside interstates and get out of there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, look, man, I like hanging out in Lakeview, but that's the only area that I'm going to go to. I mean, even Hollywood's kind of a mess.
Hollywood is terrible. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's fun.
I got to tell you, L.A., Hollywood, they market this dream, and they want people to believe, like in American Idol, you're going to Hollywood.
Right.
So you show up in Hollywood, you'll be like, I didn't want to come here.
What happened?
It's the
Why
way
am
it's
I
always
here?
been.
Yeah.
The way
Has
it's always
Hollywood always been like that? It's always been gross?
Well, I mean, at least as long as I've known.
70s and 80s, it was pretty. I mean,
Yeah, dingy.
I haven't spent a ton of time in LA.
yeah, it's always been kind of
Hollywood
like that.
is it's
That was kind of what was attractive about it to like the kind of the rock kind of genre.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, by the way,
Let me just put it this way: there's many motels that offer a 40-minute nap.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How
Sometimes-
convenient
sometimes
just for the afternoon.
You just want to take a nap.
Yeah,
that was
why
the
not?
joke at the beginning and the
Afternoon.
end of the Julia Roberts movie, whatever, when she was the prostitute.
Pretty Woman.
Huh?
Nothing.
Yeah, Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. Yeah, so sorry. And that was the Hollywood. Everyone comes and gets it,
Yeah.
And that was the joke, right? I mean, yeah, that's even back in the 80s, so no doubt about it. It was crap.
Oh yeah. And Roseanne was telling us, everyone was doing coke.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Well, that's part of why it was crap is because everybody's high off
And
the balls.
Everybody has this romanticized view of Los Angeles, and they want to go there, and it's pretty awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The weather's really nice though.
Well, that's what. That's
I
like
disagree.
They pay
San
for the
Diego has really nice
taxes,
weather.
Right?
San Diego does have nice
Yeah,
weather.
San Diego's the bomb.
LA has smog, and depending on how far inland you go, it's a lot of smog and fog.
Yeah.
And
Laguna
you
Beach,
need
Dana
a lot of moisturizer.
In
Yes,
LA,
it's dry.
Yeah.
well, I guess if you're in Santa Monica, you're all right.
Yes, I like Santa Monica.
Yep, as most people do.
It's nice there.
Very
It's
nice.
rich. It's bougie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep,
The reason why people like it is because it's nice, rich, and
and the
bougie.
Palisades.
Yeah.
Well, they,
Well, that
Palisades
used to be nice, right?
The real estate market has been on fire down there. Shout
Oh
out to
my
Doug
goodness.
Polk on Kill Tony. I stole that joke from him. His Kill Tony routine was actually really good. I was impressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, the fact that they're having the curfew, I think that's good. It's good for Republicans. It's good for conservatives. It's good for LA because they're gonna there might be fewer looting, fewer lootings and such. So it's
Well,
good to it's good to see them move. I'm actually surprised that they're moving this fast. I would have thought it would have taken a few more days for them to feel the pinch, but
I've loved the memes about the rooftop Koreans.
oh, do you follow the original Rooftop Korean?
No.
He's actually on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I
Oh,
forget.
wow.
Because I remember that in what was it, 92?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that whole standoff
cops-
situation.
Name is-
Yeah.
Cops, the National Guard were like, we don't care about you, and then left. And so they were like, lock and load.
His
Yep.
name is Tony Moon. It's his at Roof Korean 7, and his
He's
his
an actual guy?
Yeah, his bio
Should
is
hit him up for an interview.
His
Yeah.
bio is American patriot, follower of Jesus, 1992 OG Roof Korean, 2021.
Oh, he looks like a
anti-vaxxer,
badass.
Anti-hunter, 2021 J6 DC tourist.
I love that
I'm on
profile.
the
Is that real?
forest. Yeah,
I'm like, did he actually do those things?
he is alleged to be this.
He
is,
joined.
I know, but I'm
November
saying, did he actually go to
2020, is what it
J6?
say.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to interview that man.
Yeah, we should totally.
Just a look
Tweet
at
at me.
his face.
Tweet at me, Tony. We'll
Let's
get you
jump
on
to
the
this
show.
story. We have this from UPA.com. Body found. 100 plus arrested amid violent LA protests of ICE raids. Yeah, it's kind of funny. This is on the back half of the show, but they found a corpse. near where all the businesses had been looted. And they're not revealing much information right now. They're saying local law enforcement investigating the death of a man whose body was found on a downtown LA sidewalk early Tuesday, where protests and looting have occurred. The unidentified man was dead. The cause of death is being investigated. I'm going to go ahead and say it is related to the riots. But let's just entertain this. Maybe it's not directly. But I'd imagine if it was something like an overdose, the likelihood of survival was substantially higher if police weren't tied up with riots. So this is what happens when police are drawn away and they can't do their jobs. They're not patrolling. You get dead bodies. And the LA riots now have one confirmed death. We don't know. I'm not saying he died because of rioting, but he died in the where they were rioting.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to him.
Maybe the Democrats would argue he simply was walking down the street before suffering from a congenital heart defect and then just collapsing. And it's a sad, tragic story.
Yeah, that's probably what they'll say.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened.
Or he could have been looting a business and got into a fight or, got hit by a brick.
Yeah. Well, maybe he got hit by a rubber bullet and now everyone will get to sue. Because my favorite thing is how the police are not supposed to use lethal measures, which, okay. So then they use the non-lethal measures, which...
No, they don't.
Sometimes they do.
They're called less lethal.
Less lethal, yes. Right. But then people sue when they get hit with it. And it's like you were literally rioting. And they shot you with a rubber bullet, and you have a big bruise on your leg.
Well, that Australian lady, the Australian reporter wasn't rioting. That's the issue.
Right.
There's also this video, and I hate to defend
rioters do sue for this stuff.
Sure,
in Portland.
and I hate to defend this guy because he's actually appears to be a communist, but he's antagonizing a cop and yelling at him, saying, "What's your name and what's your badge number?" That's not illegal. And then the guy says, "I'm going to pop you," and he goes, "For what? For standing here asking you a question?" And then the cop shoots him with the 40 millimeter.
Oh yeah, that's not.
And then the guy says, "Yo," what? And he yells at the supervisor, like, "What's that guy's name? He just shot me." They ignore him. And then the guy shoots him again. And people are on X laughing, and I'll be like, this is how you lose.
Yeah.
This is how you lose.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be annoying. Cops can't just pop people with 40 millimeter foam rounds because a guy's being annoying.
Yep.
Yeah, that is a little much. I can see how you're tempted, but it's a little much. You gotta rein that in.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he got shot in the groin point blank. And I said, I certainly enjoy videos where people, get a football in the groin.
Sure.
But I understand... you can't defend that. The cop shouldn't have done that. First of all, he's wasting ammo. It should be, well, yeah, he's shooting a guy in the groin.
Yeah.
I mean, because he got emotional. Nah.
Yeah.
You see somebody about to throw a brick, and this is what these things are for, not some guy yelling at you.
100% true.
But also, I can see how it'd be tempting.
I'm not saying nothing.
By the way, I was trying to find it here. I found it somewhere, but somebody calculated that National Guard troops are called out since about the 60s on an average about every 5 to 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I know the Ferguson riots, it's funny when they're like, Donald Trump is sending the military against the people. Obama did it.
Yeah.
In Ferguson, he said National Guard. It's not literally Obama, but the governor.
The last LA riots in '92.
Yeah,
I mean,
Rodney King.
George.
Well, that was wasn't the Army? Was it only National Guard?
I think it was. Well, no, they had Marines there as well too.
Because that was something that
And the Marines
was
were a little
crazy.
funky in how they acted. But
I don't think we've seen riots that bad. I mean, like the Summer of Love riots nationwide, so they escalate in a different way. But the LA riots, they were murdering people. I guess the BLM riots were worse. Yeah, I guess actually it's fair to say the BLM riots were worse, and Trump did nothing. And I'm really upset. I'm pissed off about it.
You think the BLM riots were worse?
36 deaths nationwide.
Yeah, it was.
hundreds of millions of dollars and
Billions.
damages.
Billions.
Yeah, it was
Firebombing
billions.
of federal buildings for 3 months in the Pacific Northwest, and Trump did nothing.
Well, he kept talking to the mayors and stuff, and the mayors were like, no, we have it under control. You don't need to call in the National Guard. He kept threatening to call in the National Guard without actually doing it.
And he should have.
Yeah, and he should have.
Instead,
Absolutely should have.
I'll say this,
those
though.
two boys might not have been killed at the the Capitol Hill occupied protest thing.
Jump at it backwards. He sends in the police to Lafayette, outside the White House, and clears out the riots, and he gets attacked for it. He lets the riots take place all across the country, and he could have done something about it. I think Trump should have stood down during the insurrection, the leftist insurrection, M29 in 2020. You had 1,000, 2,000 or so rioters. hundreds of federal law enforcement injured. They firebombed St. John's Church. Trump should have issued a statement saying, due to a serious concern about injury to peaceful protesters because of the riots, we will be withdrawing law enforcement and hope things de-escalate. And then what would the leftists have done? They'd have stormed the White House.
Yeah.
And you would have had an M29 White House, Trump in the emergency bunker. People would be ransacking it, and he'd say, "Oh, heavens me, the far left." And I've heard people say to me when I tell them this, they're like, "Yeah, but then the media would claim he failed and he's a bad leader." And then Trump need only say, "You know, I was as surprised as you that the far left was willing to engage in insurrection because the media kept saying they were peaceful protests, and so we backed off, and they were wrong." That's what he should have done, because that's what Pelosi did on January 6th.
Yes, she did. She just lied.
And everyone wondered why police and National Guard and no one came out when they knew these people were going to be there. And it's because Pelosi, isn't it on camera? She's saying, "I made this happen."
Yes, and she also said on camera that this is something that they would regret, not having acted more swiftly to do anything.
And it was her call.
It was her call.
Yeah. By the way, Ramesh Ponnuru wrote, I think, in the Wall Street Journal just recently, and he made this statement about all the problems with the Trump presidency. One of them was, and he doesn't have the advisors who restrain him anymore, even though it's ultimately Donald Trump's fault in his first administration. No, he does have the right advisors right now, because he is thinking much more clearly through these things and acting on them. I think many, like what you're talking about, Tim, I agree. And I think he should have allowed that to be shown for exactly what it was. You don't wait till January 6th to do that, by the way, when you're going out of office. And that's a serious issue here. Like, he's got the right people around. It's not perfect, have some criticisms, but this is really much more fantastic than these ninnies, these Mike Pence-style ninnies that, and I say this, by the way, and I went to church with Mike and Karen for 5 years, and Mike introduced me to my first job. But, these kind of crazy ways of thinking about Washington, D.C., that are very Mike Pence style are absurd. And Donald Trump's not doing that this time. And I think we actually have a really real hope when we're talking about, no, go take some freaking action, that he might do it. And it will provide benefits, because at the base of everything in politics is not what do the polls say right now, or what's the trend at the moment of what I need to be doing. The American people, at least, like real action on the principle.
Yeah.
And to take on, again, as we were talking about, the seditious behavior, to take it on and be direct with it, even if you get a little bit of a plunge of response and you stay with it and get results, that's what people are looking for. They're not waiting for you to figure out what they are saying. There's someone that said, I can't remember what leader it was, but there was some famous person in the past that said, "Oh, there are my people. Let me see where they are going so I can lead them." Right? That is not what you do in politics. You go lead, and the people will be inspired, and they'd follow. That's actually one of the great things about Donald Trump, with all his faults. That's one of the great things that we have as an example, if people will take it once he's off the scene.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think that the Trump administration probably has more leeway than people think that he does, especially when you hear such consternation about the fact that Donald Trump is doing anything at all. The government does things that are clearly 100% within the purview of the federal government. Enforce the existing laws passed by Congress, and if necessary, protect the federal agents that are enforcing those laws, right? Those are unquestionably things that the federal government has the authority to do. And people are making such a big deal about it. I think that it turns into a bit of a Chicken Little, which is something that the left has done well for the past 15 years. It turns into a Chicken Little, saying the sky is falling because they're just enforcing the law, when really they might be able to actually bend the law a little bit and get away with it for the broader population. So, but I don't know how much Donald Trump has in him to actually do that, because no matter how much the left wants to paint him as such a terrible authoritarian that wants to do all these terrible things, I don't buy that for 1 second. And I think that his first administration was evidence of that. The fact that he was trying to keep from being the authoritarian president. He always wants to be the guy that gets along. He forgives people that he had, or he lets bygones be bygones of previous, disagreements or whatever. So
So Newsom's supposed to speak in a few minutes. I guess we'll pull that up. They say it's going to be on X. I guess.
That's wild that he's just putting it on X.
Good for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X. It says.
Well, all of it. Yeah, I guess.
Governor Newsom's address, "Democracy at a Crossroads." He's running.
Oh, he is for sure.
Oh,
running.
yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. You know what he looks like, though, is
A lizard?
Dastardly Do-Right. You know that guy?
No.
What's his name? Dirk
Dast-
Dastardly.
I always thought he looked like
from
the Joker.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Dirk Dastardly.
Yes. Did you not know Dirk Dastardly?
I thought he was always
From
the
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
clean-cut Joker. The pointy, clean-cut looking Joker. Because Joker's had a couple different looks.
Yeah, he looks more like the Joker to me.
Does he?
does.
Or Two-Face.
Yeah, a little bit
Maybe,
of
yeah.
Two-Face.
That's who you think he looks like?
That's it. Yeah.
No, that's not a good picture of him. Normally, he's got like the teeth. It's the teeth, really.
I think he's Harvey Dent.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely running, though.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
And he has.
I
He
mean,
wants to be president. So
I got to be
bad.
honest. If he did fall halfway into a vat of chemicals or get like splashed acid on his face while like, by a mobster, and then he became Two-Face, I might vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, well, because then the good half comes out. You know what I mean?
Right. Interesting.
I was just contemplating the fact earlier today that, first of all, it's been 13 years since 2012 when Mitt Romney was the presidential candidate with the best hair ever.
Right.
And Gavin Newsom just may be able to go beyond that if he really works
He
hard.
does have pretty great hair.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's natural or not, but he does have
It's very gelish.
All right, he's live.
Here he is.
Or the live player is up,
Oh,
so
no,
we'll.
it started. Yeah.
I really don't want to hear what he has to say, but I think I kind of have to play it because it's breaking news with these massive riots going on across the country. So
I'm curious, to be honest with you.
what if it's just completely unrelated to anything, and he was just like, I went to
He's
In-N-Out.
talking about the California. He's talking about the rail project.
I went to In-N-Out and had a. Oh, here we go. There's no sound. Is that his fault or our fault?
That's kind of hilarious.
I think it's theirs.
Yeah, this is his fault. Wait, what? Yeah, there's no sound.
It's them.
Yeah, it's no sound coming from him. Yeah.
Got the crack team on it.
No, this can't be right.
Yeah, this is his fault.
Yeah, it's totally.
You checked your computer?
Yeah, it's not playing.
It's that's
It's not playing.
No, I mean, you're on X watching.
I'm
his-
on X watching his speech, and it's not playing.
there's no audio.
Oh my God! No way! Come on!
What a loser! Come on!
No! Hold on!
What do you
I
mean?
still have to believe we're doing something wrong.
Well, how come I can't hear it on my laptop? It's
I can't
not
hear it
connected
on
to the
mine.
system.
I'm telling you, I just checked it too.
That's hilarious.
Oh, he's not live anymore. Wait,
It is on mine.
it is on yours?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check my phone. That's funny.
There's no sound.
That's that's.
Yo, I got my phone pulled up. I turned the volume all the way up. There's nothing.
Yeah, same thing
Tune
with
in.
me.
Is it maybe
Live
just
now.
X?
People are saying it too. No audio, champ.
No way! This is the funniest thing ever.
What
Boomer.
a clown!
Multiple posts saying no sound. It's not us.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe he had nothing to say, and he's just going peas and carrots and peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. And then what's going to happen is after they wrap, he's going to be like, it was a great speech. I can't remember what I said. Is this for real? There's no
That's
sound.
hilarious.
People are saying it.
I'm trying. I pulled up his Instagram, and there's nothing here.
Muted. Can't get sound to work.
Even on X, they're saying it.
Yep. Everyone is saying no audio.
You clown.
You got 19,000 people
Yeah,
looking at
people
this
are
plan.
responding to the. Yup, they shut it off.
You clown.
That is. Shocking.
I am so glad we pulled this up. Are they going to fix it? Wow.
That's hilarious.
That is amazing. That is just amazing.
That was the start of his presidential
That's
campaign,
it.
right?
That's it. You know what? The only other start of a presidential campaign that was worse was when Ron DeSantis launched his campaign on X, and that was
Yo, they shut it
also
down.
Terrible.
It's gone.
Yeah. What clowns? That's amazing.
Embarrassing.
And you know he's pissed in the background
with
right
all
now.
those resources, it's still pinned.
He might actually unhinge his jaw and then eat them like the lizard snake person he is.
He should just consume his entire staff.
That's
But somebody's getting fired. Somebody's getting fired.
By the way,
for
there
that.
were 34,000 people that got into it by that time. That is hilarious.
That is.
Yeah, all the responses on X say no audio, no audio,
That
like
is
to
just
his post.
Stunning.
Come on, Gavin. What are you doing? Is he alive?
You joke.
Well, I guess it's archived on this show. I'm like, I want to save that for the historical record.
Gavin Newsom, he's a non-starter.
All you need to do is pull out the iPhone
man.
and open up your X app. It's very simple.
This is amazing. There is no sound.
There are 42,000 people in there right now.
Right, people are still trying to watch it.
That's not how Twitter works. 42,000 people have viewed the video.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is
people are now
still
watching
going
it.
in. It's still rolling up, and he totally missed his opportunity.
I still to this day, the stupidest thing Elon did was change concurrent viewership on X into static views because that burned all advertising. We can't sell against X anymore because nobody. It's playing by its own unique set of rules, and so it's just excluded now from all ad deals.
But he did it because when you see the report on the back end, it's all short views. So
is it working now?
Oh, he's back.
Federal agents conducted large-scale workplace raids
Where?
in around Los Angeles.
What? You want me to mute it?
As I speak.
But where's that? Where is it?
Governor Gavin
It's on
Newsom?
Gavin Newsom. He's live again.
Yeah.
This is all we're seeing is
I'm getting the blue screen. So
blue screen.
Yeah.
You click it.
I have it right there.
Yeah, blue screen.
Well,
Yeah.
it's weird. Is it
Blue screen.
happening right now?
Yeah, I'm watching it on my laptop here.
It's at Gavin Newsom.
yeah, hard refresh, blue screen.
At CA Governor. I have CA Governor up.
CA Governor. Ah, they
moved it over.
Near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb. A similar thing
Is that
downtown.
what happened? I thought
In other actions, a U.S. citizen, 9 months pregnant, was arrested. A 4-year-old girl taken. Families separated. Friends, quite literally, disappearing. In response, everyday Angelenos came out to exercise their constitutional right to free speech and assembly, to protest their government's actions. In turn, the state of California and the city and county of Los Angeles sent our police officers to help keep the peace. And with some exceptions, they were successful. Like many states, California is no stranger to this sort of unrest. We manage it regularly and with our own law enforcement. But this, again, was different. What then ensued was the use of tear gas, flashbang grenades, rubber bullets, federal agents detaining people and undermining their due process rights. Donald Trump, without consulting California law enforcement leaders, commandeered 2,000 of our state's National Guard members to deploy on our streets illegally and for no reason.
It's legal under Title
This
10.
brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation.
A judge told you it was
putting our
legal, so
people,
shut up.
Our officers,
Also,
and
there was no
even
raid
our
at Home
National
Depot.
Guard
Yeah.
at risk.
He
That's
apparently
when
doesn't
the
know how
downward
flat this is
spiral
falling.
began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder. And the president, he did it on purpose. As the news spread throughout LA, anxiety for family and friends ramped up. Protests started again. By night, several dozen lawbreakers became violent and destructive. They vandalized property. They tried to assault police officers. Many of you have seen the video clips of cars burning on cable news. If
That
you
was
incite
before.
violence, I
Yes,
want to be
that was
clear about
before.
this.
That
If you
was like
incite
the
violence or
reason.
This is
destroy
what
our
evil looks
communities,
like.
Yes.
you're going to be held to account. That kind of criminal behavior will not be tolerated. Full stop. Already more than 220 people have been arrested, and we're reviewing tapes to build additional cases, and people will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Again, thanks to our law enforcement officers and the majority of Angelenos who protested peacefully, the situation was winding down and was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown.
But it's still happening.
But
That's why there's a curfew
That's not
now.
what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation, He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. He federalized another 2,000 Guard members. He deployed more than 700 active U.S. Marines.
They're on standby.
These are the men and women trained for foreign combat, not domestic.
That's why
law
they're being
enforcement.
trained. Actually, that's not
we
correct.
Honor their
they're trained
service.
for
we honor
domestic
their
crowd control.
bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed
Democrats
forces.
are
Not in
evil.
LA, not in California, not anywhere. We're seeing unmarked cars in school parking lots, kids afraid of attending their own graduation.
Well, maybe their
Trump
parents shouldn't have
is
dragged them into the
pulling
country
a military
illegally.
dragnet
This is
all across
it's
Los Angeles,
so
well beyond
ridiculous.
his stated intent to just go after violent and
It's
serious
just,
criminals.
I'm going to blame Donald
His
Trump for all the
agents
things
are
that are
arresting
happening
dishwashers,
in California.
gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses.
Good.
That's just
They're
weakness.
illegal.
Hey,
Weakness
that's fine. It
masquerading
doesn't matter
as
what they're
strength.
like
is what I
under the
voted
table,
Donald Trump's government
low-wage
protecting
job
our
is.
communities.
No. I did
They're
not vote for this.
traumatizing our
I
communities.
voted for 10
And that
times this,
seems
and I
to be
demand
the
they pass
entire
a big,
point.
beautiful bill.
Way more.
California will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on
Duly
behalf of
corrected.
our people, all of our people, including in the courts. Just yesterday, we filed a legal
All verifiable.
challenge to
It's
Donald
all
Trump's
verifiable.
reckless deployment of
sorry.
American troops to a major American city. Today, we sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles.
And the judge denied you.
If some of us could be snatched off the
Oh, he
streets
didn't mention that
without a
part.
warrant,
Doesn't mention the
Didn't
judge
mention
said
that the judge
on
said
suspicion
no.
or skin color, then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves. But they do not
guilty?
stop there.
You mean?
Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control. And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long
January
as it
6th.
January
serves
6th.
him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th?
January 6th. There
Ask
we go.
Everybody,
everyone.
take a drink.
Yes.
Take time, reflect on
Favorite
this
day.
perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or constitution,
Unreal.
perpetuating a unified
could've put a
assault
bingo card
on
together on
American
Yeah,
traditions.
we should have done.
This is a president who in just over 140 days has fired government watchdogs that could hold him accountable.
We get it,
for
Gavin, you're running
corruption
for office.
and fraud. He's
what
declared a war on
horrible-
culture, on
Could you
history,
imagine 4
on
years of
science,
having
on
to deal with
knowledge
this?
itself.
It would be
Databases
science,
quite
upsetting.
literally
Science.
are vanishing. He's delegitimizing news organizations, and he's assaulting the First Amendment.
I don't think that's
And the
happening.
threat of defunding them.
I think they
That threat,
delegitimized
he's dictating
themselves.
what
Yeah.
universities
He's actually
themselves
expanded
can teach.
access.
Yes.
He's targeting
Profoundly.
law
Well,
firms
Biden
and the
canceled
judicial
450
branch
press
that are
passes
the foundations of an orderly and civil
when he came
society.
in. And Trump
He's
reinstated
calling
them.
for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected.
Goodness.
And we all know this Saturday.
He begs
He's
to be
ordering
arrested.
our
The Trump goes,
American
okay, and he goes,
heroes, the United States
He's
military,
calling for my
and
arrest.
forcing
He
them
did it
to put
twice.
on a
He was like, go
vulgar
ahead, arrest me.
display
Go ahead,
to
go
celebrate
ahead.
Come
his
on, I can
birthday.
take it.
I
Just
arrest
as
do it.
other failed
It's like
dictators
all he
have
wants
done
in
this.
life.
Stop, Gavin. I don't want to
All
arrest
he
you.
wants
Look,
is
this
to be
isn't
sitting
just
there in
about
handcuffs.
protests
It just sounds
here
thirsty.
in Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
it
It's
does
all-
sound
it
When
sounds
Donald Trump sought
thirsty.
blanket
Yeah.
authority
Come
to
on.
commandeer the
Yeah.
National
You
Guard,
know
he
you
made
wanna.
that order
We
plain
need to get
to
a-
every
litmus
state
We need to get a
in this
program
nation.
where I can draw
This is
on
about
video
all
so I
of
can
us.
add a mustache.
This
really.
is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next.
No.
Democracy is
Democracy.
under
There we go.
assault
That's what we've got
before
going on.
our
That's
eyes.
how we
This
got
moment,
here.
How big
we
this
have
is
fear
bingo
got
card
here
has
with
arrived.
democracy. That's what we
He's
have.
taking a
That's
wrecking
what we're
ball.
doing.
A wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project.
Oh,
3 co-equal branches of independent government. There are no longer any checks and
You
balances.
know what his problem
Congress
is for the speech?
Nowhere to
He's
be
going- it's
found.
too heavy.
Speaker Johnson has
It is pretty
completely
heavy.
I got
abdicated
some
that
PR.
And he's still going.
Listen, Gavin.
The rule of law
Here's my advice
has
for you,
increasingly
marketing
been
wise. The
given
first
way
thing is
to
fix
the
your
rule
audio
of
before
Don.
going live. The second
The founding
is it's
fathers
called
didn't
less
live
is more.
and die to
Right.
see this kind of moment. It's time for all
How
of
is
us
he
to stand
still
up.
going? Is anyone
Justice
still
Brandeis,
listening? We're not.
You said it best. In a democracy, the most important
Justice
office, with
Brandeis
all due
said it
respect,
best. Like
Mr.
you're
President,
going into
is
this
not the presidency. And it's certainly not
technocratic,
government. The most
approach to it.
important office is office of
10
citizen.
minutes done.
At this
5
moment,
minutes done.
At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
I think it's time to occupy California. So here's what I would say. Just, give some advice to Gavin Newsom in terms of public relations. When you hammer literally every point imaginable all at once, it becomes incomprehensible. And the important thing to remember is people won't remember what you said. They'll remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
So what Gavin Newsom needs to do, if he wanted to actually run for office successfully, is to address a single point of contention that has people worried, which would, here's what I would do. I would point to the military deployment as the point of contention and say it is not the federal government's job to intervene in the state's handling of their local laws as it pertains to protests or violence. Mm-hmm. We do that. He could have then said, Donald Trump jumped the gun in the deployment of U.S. military into our streets, terrifying our neighbors. Whether it was right or not is not the point. It was done without consideration for the safety and the feel and the states of the people of the state. Take one point and then say he shouldn't have done it. Make them feel anxiety and then be done. Instead, he goes on there and says Trump is Hitler, and I'm literally
J6.
Yeah, he's like throwing in J6, confused the whole thing, and he's trying to elicit a reaction. I think the reason why he went that route is because most people feel anxiety due to the lawlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to invoke J6 to try and redirect the anxiety that people are feeling towards Trump and blame Trump for. It's not going to work.
And that was one day. He's got 5 now. That was one day.
Well, he needs to consider, listen, when Cash and Dan were talking about Epstein, they made a massive mistake as a PR blunder. Okay, and I like those guys. Cash said to Rogan, look, there's no way in or out. We have all the video footage. You'll see it. So no one could have gotten in there. And then it's just like immediately accept the person who found the body.
Right.
What? The paramedics? Come on, there are people there. That's a stupid response. Or Dan not addressing his past comments and sentiments on this. You got to be real with people. You got to say, listen, I had a show, and I often talked about my skepticism over the story of Epstein, but now that I got in there and saw the evidence, I got nothing to add. I mean, it looks like it's a suicide. Instead, they give you this answer that neglects the existing information that already is in our minds. They don't get past that hurdle. The hurdle for Governor Newsom right now is that people like that Trump deployed the military.
Yeah.
People like that Trump is enforcing immigration laws. He needs to address that and then redirect. He didn't do it because he's bad at what he does. Now, hey, look at me. I never won a governorship, but let's just say this right now. His audio wasn't working. Okay, run for president and have that happen. But we do got to go to your chat. So my friends, smash the like button, share the show with everyone, literally everyone. Got a neighbor? You guys ever talk? Maybe he is leaning over the wooden fence, but you can only see his eyes. You chat to him periodically for advice. Tell him to watch Timcast IRL. Return the advice to him. We're going to have that uncensored call-in show at rumble.com/TimcastIRL. So don't miss it. But for now, we'll grab your chats. All right. Let's grab your Rumble rants, my friends. Shane H. Wilder, always the first, says, I'm going to start calling Tim Miss Cleo because he predicted the Summer of Love 2 Electric Boogaloo months in advance. Who is putting the Tim was right jar next to the Alex Jones was right jar? I'll take credit for a few things right now. I predicted all of the Democrat projects to find the liberal Joe Rogan. Before Trump won, when we were all talking about how we're doing so well and then Trump wins, I said, Democrats are going to dump millions of dollars. I literally even said 20 million. I said they can spend 25 million on Rachel Maddow. They can put 20 million into finding prominent figures and propping them up on social media. They're going to put their faces everywhere. And what did they do? Project Sam, $20 million to try and speak to American men. And I was sitting down with Sam Cedar. Hi, Sam. On this, because I know he watches every single episode. And we were talking about the potentials for civil war. And he said, it's not going to happen. That's silly. And I said, okay, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But let me ask you this. Do you think Trump will use the military to enforce immigration, deportations? And he said, yes. And I said, will Democrats just let him do it? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, probably not. And I'm like, okay. So either you get Donald Trump using the military to enforce deportations, which you claim is a red line, Or Democrats fight back when Trump does it, and then you get a breakdown between the federal government and the states. Hey, look where we are. Donald Trump has called in Marines and National Guard. He's taken the authority of the National Guard away from Gavin Newsom to assist and protect federal law enforcement as they enact immigration raids, as everybody thought he would. The question now is, will Democrats let it happen, or will they start obstructing? If they begin obstructing, you get into insurrection territory. If Donald Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, you are getting into civil strife escalating into civil war. You will end up with the issue right now, and we are dangerously close, is that California cheats our elections every year. Mm-hmm. They cheat Congress every year. They have extra seats because they allow illegal immigrants to come in. I think we need several other states, red states, to sue to the Supreme Court challenging what California is doing, because by barring federal law enforcement on immigration, they are bolstering their representation, which is subverting the will of the other states in the union. If that don't happen and no one takes care of this and California continues to defy the rules, the rule of law, then what? We're going to have all these Democrat states have already come out and said they will defy Trump. Yeah. You've got, 20 some odd?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
There's a bunch of them. Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, a bunch of them. Minnesota.
All right, let's go. We got Alpha 2 Omega says, howdy, people. Tim, now I wish illegals just stuck with DoorDash instead of politics. Arrest and deport them all. We can no longer care about how Democrats feel. They destroy everything they touch. Mm-hmm. Ordered DoorDash today. And we had our staff at the gate check IDs. And the man, in fact, was the name on the account.
Oh, how about that?
Yep.
Lucky good for him.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm done playing these games, these DoorDash scams. I ain't having it. If DoorDash is the worst because they don't have a picture of the person coming. And so we'll probably just start doing Uber Eats or something, because that's a big deal. Some stranger pulling up to the property in the security checkpoint. It's like, we don't know who you are and your name doesn't match and we don't know what you look like.
Right. Like, why are you even here?
My wife and I happened to be listening to that last night when you guys were talking about it. And I've done DoorDash at our apartment in Pentagon City, and I'm sitting there saying, I had not given it consideration. I think it's a valid point. It's really a problem. And the Uber thing does work much better. They do
show
have it.
Show the face, and you can rate them. And then, I mean, it is kind of crazy because people send us food all the time for a variety of reasons. People will be like, hey, look, I make this really great drink, talk about it. Garbage.
Yeah.
Instantly into the garbage. Anytime food arrives in our mailbox, we just go whoop in the trash.
Yeah.
And it's good because the trash can's next to the mailbox. It's actually really easy to do.
Right. It's very convenient.
So when a stranger shows up, because we DoorDash, and it's like, it says Miguel, and you're a blonde woman, you can turn around. We're not eating whatever that food is.
Right.
So we're taking it seriously. Imagine this. Imagine someone goes to a store and goes to a fast food restaurant, grabs food, pulls up, tells our team, like, I'm here for DoorDash, and they just open the door and let them in. So I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
They got to show ID.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yep. All right. Kat says, I saw a video that connected the Walmart heiress involved in sending the face mask to the riots. Not sure if it's true, but she is connected to an NGO that is funding the riots. So it is the Walton woman who is putting out ads for the No Kings protest.
Really?
Yeah. Her name's on it.
Yeah.
Is that Chrissy Walton or something?
Yeah, I think she did. It was a full page New York Times and a couple other papers. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's talk about trust fund baby approach. I mean, I don't know how much work she actually did in Walmart, but my gosh,
probably not much.
I mean, it's the only reason that you do something like that is because you're a bored, wealthy person who thinks that you're doing something that is really helping society or something.
Look, you're a billionaire, so the left is never going to approve of you ever anyway. So stop trying to appease them.
Just Because I'm Free says, what do you think Lincoln would have done if a governor said we are still going to have slaves after the Civil War ended? Trump needs to do that with these sanctuary states. We don't need to think what he would have done. We know what he did. It's called Reconstruction. And they sent marshals and they sent troops to these states. And the reason Juneteenth exists as a holiday is because Texas still had people in slavery even after the war was long done.
It's like 2 years.
Also, he arrested a third of the Maryland legislature and suspended habeas corpus from PA to D.C. and arrested random people for no reason because they were in the way. And Sherman burned down farms, destroyed roads, and massacred, and well, I'll be light, but killed a lot of people. Scorched earth.
It's crazy. The Democrats always talk about how they're pro-labor, but really they're the ones who are advocating to have the second class of citizens who have unregulated jobs, who work under, dangerous conditions, and they are advocating for the perpetuation of the wealthy to have a class of slave labor that works for them in their homes, like low-paid gardeners, nannies, whatever else it is, delivery food drivers, all of that stuff. These are the kind of jobs that Chuck Schumer wants illegal immigrants to do.
Perpetrated by white men with hair buns.
Well, not just the white men with hair buns, but their wives, with the extra lips.
Well, that too. Yeah.
With the extra lips.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing.
Well,
it's white privilege.
They have extra lots of stuff.
I mean, it is white privilege, but it's when Tim talks about the woke as not having an ideology and stuff, for the majority of the people that you interact with or that you see interacting on the left or that you would consider on the left, I think he's probably generally right. I disagree with him about whether or not there is a foundational ideas when it comes to the way that the woke behave, but like generally the people you're interacting with, they don't know why they think the things they do. That's why you get billionaires saying things like, oh, I'm going to help the leftists that literally want to kill me and take all my property.
This is the proof to them having no real ideology. They might claim sometimes, but I guarantee you, if there were a bunch of leftists saying eat the rich, and a billionaire showed up and said, I am Mackenzie Bezos showed up, they'd be like, yay, we love you. Or when BLM says defund the police, and then what happens when they called the cops to that guy in Wisconsin? They went, yay, the cops are arresting our enemies. Mm-hmm. They don't have any of these ideologies. It's just the exertion of power. And what they're doing is, I call it the Niles Crane method. So it was an episode of Frasier where a man sat down in Frasier's seat at the coffee shop they go to, and Frasier was having none of it because he was having a sour day. So when he asked the man to move, the man refused, so he threw him from the seat. Well, that man later sued Frasier and said, you assaulted me, I'm suing you. So Niles, being ever so clever, began to talk smack to this man, who then started yelling at him, and then took his finger and poked his chest, to which Niles went, whoa, and fell backwards and crashed into a table and said, he's assaulted me, countersuit. And the man said, I didn't do anything. And they're like, we all saw you touch him. Mm-hmm. And he dropped the suit. That's why they claim critical theory, not because they actually believe it, because claiming to be a victim generates sympathy, and they're using that against you. They're using goodwill against you. But the moment they don't need to, they will club you over that with a bike lock.
Yes.
Well,
It
listen,
will club you with a bike lock.
That's right.
They like
I
that.
say it all the time. 6,000
And they'll
years of
steal your
recorded human history proves the radical corruption of mankind. We only ever do good things because we worked hard at being good on some standard. If it's a religious standard, however you approach that morality, you work hard to do well. It doesn't come naturally. So that's why there's no these are expressions of that unrestrained humanity, so to speak, that unrestrained moral sense that has no foundation in anything. And it's chaos. That's why it's chaotic. That's why it's troubling, problematic in so many ways. So.
All right. Cain Abel says, so with Saturday and Sunday rioting insurrection, does this mean we are in a civil war with the Democrats?
Probably not.
Well, the definition of civil war, typically civil war is defined as when two or more factions fight for control of one country or government. And so there's always going to be an effort to obfuscate your intentions and your actions. The issue we have right now is that California is engaged in a seditious conspiracy as a state. The sanctuary state grants them extra congressional seats. We need to stop it now. If Donald Trump is going to deport illegal immigrants and they block and don't let him and don't let the will of the people be enacted, then they've escalated to a direct conflict to subvert the power of the federal government.
It's not just the will of the people. It's also literally federal law. All the time that Biden and Kamala Harris kept saying Congress needs to act in order to create, immigration policies, Congress didn't need to act.
No.
There are federal laws.
Yeah.
If you're here illegally, you can be deported.
Yeah.
You know?
The whole Congress needs to act was just a line to deflect.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, there
Well,
are.
and that was just a line to funnel people in. And you had judge after judge under the Biden administration as states were suing Biden for saying, you know, you're allowing this flood of people into our state. This is no good. We get to put up a wall. States kept suing Biden and judges kept saying, no, you don't get to protect your state. You know, I mean, it was absolutely insane. And those are the same judges now who are like, no, bring back the horrible rapists. They belong here.
Raybert G. Stanbert Jr. says, so I'm in San Diego for work right now, and it's wild to me that a third world city is not that far away and everything seems normal. Reminds me of Tim's stories about Egypt during the revolution. In fact, that's the point about what Stelter was saying when he was like, most Angelenos are having a normal life. That's a manipulation tactic meant to trick you into believing false realities about conflict. Every conflict ever, there are cities that are untouched by conflict, and even a couple blocks away from the front line of the conflict, nothing's happening. The story, of course, being referred to here is Tahrir Square, where the revolution took place in Egypt. You walked 2 blocks away and you're at McDonald's watching soccer. I was literally there. The McDonald's was in front of the Hilton, and there was a guy sitting there, and they had a TV on, and he was watching soccer and eating burgers. And then you'd go up. I was on the 26th floor of the Hilton, and there's a revolution taking place. They lie to you because they want you to think what's happening is insignificant.
Yes.
They say things like the Ferguson riots, it was one street. And it's like, yes, it was West Florissant. They burned the whole thing down. They torched dozens of buildings on that one street. That was the riots of Ferguson. This is always how it is. But
I had a friend message me and said, hey, you need to talk about, so she's from St. Louis and she's listening to us. You got to talk about that because, yeah, it was outrageous. It was crazy. But, you know, to answer the question about are we having a civil war, it is sedition because their goal is the raw flexing of power and the desire to take down Donald Trump. And it's nothing more than that. That's a seditious.
So then the only question would be, what they're doing is seditious. First of all, on the ground, people waving foreign flags, saying this is Mexico, not California. That's sedition right there. They're fighting with the feds for this purpose. The politicians defending them is seditious. California using illegal immigrants, non-citizens, to subvert federal power is seditious. The question is, when Trump comes in to shut down the sedition, do they resist with force? If they do, you get a civil war. If not, we shut it down, maybe. But we're going to go to the uncensored portion of the show, my friends. So go to rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Sign up for Rumble Premium using promo code TIM10 to get $10 off your yearly membership. You get access to not just Timcast IRL Uncensored, you get the Green Room show. We have a pre-show of us and our guests in the Green Room hanging out Monday through Friday. It's a bonus podcast, another half-an-hour show. And we've got the events coming up. We were talking with Michael Malice. He says, I want to debate a cop. And so I said, let's see if Angry Cops wants to debate Michael Malice. And so we're going to reach out because I think it'll be hilarious.
Richard, you should definitely do this.
Because Richard and Michael are both incredibly funny people. And Richard is a cop. And I said, this would be probably one of the funniest debates we do. And they'd probably get along, even though they'd argue. Right. So that's, we reserve seats for members. We're working on expanding this. But we want, you as members at these Culture War Lives, you come up, you join the debate. It's a lot of fun. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, of course. We'll be at that Uncensored show in just a second. Jim, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah. Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus, theconservativecaucus.org. Also follow me at Jim Pfaff on X. I think you'll find some interesting content there. And thanks, Michael Malice, for the shout out yesterday. And I think I kicked your butt.
I'm Libby Emmons. You can find me on Twitter at Libby Emmons. Also, you could sign up for my newsletter. I write it up every morning, and I'd be glad to share it with you. You can subscribe at thepostmillennial.com/Libby.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can check out our new record. It's entitled Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL for the uncensored portion of the show. Thanks for hanging out.